For members of the Mountain View co-housing community, life is almost straight out of a romanticized 1950s sitcom. Neighbors know each other by name and share meals, activities, and responsibilities together. Meet Paul Berry. He's a retired tech worker and a member of the Mountain View co-housing community, or MVCC for short. He and his wife Sachiko Berry live in one of 19 fully occupied residential units in the neighborhood of upscale, energy-efficient condominiums and common facilities.
In fact, they had a slogan when they were recruiting and planning this was, "We are building a new old-fashioned neighborhood," on the theory that it used to be that neighbors knew each other. Hello.
Co-housing communities like MVCC are characterized both by members' private ownership of their own units and communal shared spaces, a clear difference from cooperative housing complexes or co-ops, in which tenants do not own the units they are staying in. In MVCC, residents share spaces like the gym, movie room, rooftop, crafts room, an underground garage, and a common area, amongst others.
After a business meeting, we have a little celebration of whose birthday, and fortunately somebody has a birthday every month.
In MVCC, the community has common meals twice a week, in which members work in teams of 3 to prepare meals together. Each meal usually receives around 50% participation and costs each individual $6.
So when I'm cooking, I come out here and see what's out here, or somebody says to me, "Oh, don't forget those," or this. Lettuce for salad. I learned something about lettuce. You're used to seeing them in the store when you buy it whole, but here I realized leaves at the bottom and eat them, and the rest of it will keep growing. So there's some for our dinner.
Common elements like regular meals, bonding opportunities, and shared governance speak to the larger ethic and mission of co-housing and intentional living, that members of a community are accountable to one another and work together to shape the way they want to live. The concept of co-housing was imported from Denmark.
I mean, it's like being in a big family, and some people are going to be closer to some people than others, or some friendships are going to be stronger than others. But there's something very special about knowing your neighbors.
In the most extreme example, I once foolishly climbed up on the kitchen counter and fell off, and with a loud thump. And Denise, in the apartment, the owner of the trains, in the apartment beneath, heard a thump and said, "I better investigate," and came and got me up and ended up taking me off to the Palo Alto Medical Clinic, where they x-rayed my shoulder and said, "Well, you didn't actually break anything." So that's nice to have neighbors who are around to do that. Occasionally we had improvised duets or trios of instruments. One of our neighbors plays recorder. I have a little saxophone that I can barely play after all these years, but we make music together sometimes.
Co-housing communities are becoming increasingly popular in the United States, and especially so in California. The first such community newly constructed in the United States was Muir Commons in Davis, California, with residents moving in during the summer of 1981. There are currently 292 co-housing communities registered by the Cohousing Association of the United States. With 56 recorded co-housing communities, California is the frontrunner in this increasingly voguish trend, followed by Washington, which has 28. Out of these 56 co-housing accommodations in California, 9 of them will have communities moving in between 2019 and 2023. Greater convenience, practicality, affordability, and enjoyability are all factors that members point to in describing the advantages of a co-housing community. Charles Durrett is the architect who introduced the concept of co-housing to the United States and whom coined the term co-housing. He has been involved in designing more than 50 co-housing communities in the United States and around the world. He attributes the rise in co-housing's popularity over the years to changing population demographics and an increased openness to newer modes of living.
For those who are referred to as the cultural creatives in our co-housing, they want something to do more than what their parents did, especially when they grew older. And when it comes to growing older, senior housing, for example, their parents lived in their single-family house for too long, couldn't take care of it for too long, then moved into assisted care but didn't like it because somebody else was telling you what time lunchtime is. Then they moved into nursing care, and they really hated that because all I really had was a bed and a TV and probably a roommate. There's a lot of things to not like about how the parents grew old. Co-housing brings, village life back into place. But proximity is a real amenity of consequence. Proximity with people that you know, that you care about, and that support you is a huge boon. The times are changing, and we need a new neighborhood to reflect that. Co-housing is custom neighborhoods, so in working with the culture, you can readily figure out how to better respond to their actual needs, wants, and desires, much better than a regular developer can.
Co-housing communities are highly accustomed to each unique neighborhood's requests. For example, discussions on the price range, affordability, and degree of environmental sustainability of the housing units are made prior to the project's actual execution. In addition, MVCC is an intentional senior co-housing, where the average age of each resident is around 62 years old, whereas Nevada City co-housing is intentionally multi-generational, with 37 kids altogether for 34 houses. Nevertheless, there are challenges to co-housing communities which prevent them from becoming a solution to California's housing crisis. For example, as residents get older, it becomes harder for them to continue maintenance and upkeeping of infrastructure, which creates a future need to outsource work to external contractors. Such projects' conceptualization and execution timelines can also stretch over a decade, while turnover rates of houses are very low. Looking ahead, there is increased enthusiasm about co-housing communities in California, with 9 Californian co-housing communities set to move in between 2019 and 2023. Fair Oaks Eco Housing is set to officially move in December 2019. The search for land area for the project first began in spring 2005, and this year, all their hard work will finally come into fruition. Many residents seem to have found a bit of paradise in co-housing. Bob Oyafuso and Al Hempel initially became good friends through the planning process, and they are officially ready to become neighbors. Both are excited to settle into their new residential community.
I found a place that I thought represented heaven.
From Peninsula Press, I'm Tan Xiaohui.